thank you very much for sticking around. So
you do know what Cubs stands for, don't you? Can't understand baseball in September.
I know it's October though.
Yeah, and they're still lucky.
And
hopefully they don't choke it this year like 100, they did last year.
103 wins this year.
Oh yeah,
dominant. Best defensive team in decades. Best starting pitching ERA by more than half a run over the vanquished Washington Nationals. It works. They work at every level. Anyway, so a lot of stuff has happened. I mean, I don't want to spit numbers at you all day because I know how rigged those are.
They are, especially if a Democrat tells you.
There's been a lot that's been going on. Well, that's let's talk about that. That's been the central line for this past week. So Donald Trump has a pretty much panned first debate performance. He's got a second debate performance where he threatens to lock Hillary Clinton up to her face, which
really solidified his base.
the base that wouldn't desert him if he went out on Fifth Avenue and shot somebody in the head. He didn't need to solidify anybody. But he threatened to throw her in jail, called her the devil, said she had hate in her heart. I mean, just the most disgusting hour and a half of presidential debates that I remember ever watching.
Well, and I really thought he did pretty well towards the end. At the beginning, he got a little bit shaky. But, he's didn't do very stuff people believe. I'm just saying.
This is why that attitude alone is why he's in such bad shape, because that's what his people are telling him. That's what his supporters are telling him, and we'll get into that. No, because there's I've got an axe to grind about this campaign, because it's a shaky. Well, fine. Will you admit shaky? It was a shaky second debate performance where he did not get off to a good start.
He didn't get off to a good start. And here's the truth. Trump is not a debater. He doesn't know the first thing about it. I'll be the first to say it.
And do you suppose
you know it? I know it.
Suppose that's because he doesn't know
even
what he's
my brother
talking
Joe
about.
knows. No, I think he knows what he's talking about. He just doesn't know how to phrase it.
All of these women come out accusing him of sexually harassing or assaulting them or whatever, and he can't. If you remember the infidelity allegations when Bill Clinton was running in 1992, where Jennifer Flowers came out and a couple of other things. The Clinton campaign was just deny, just like Trump has been doing. But Bill, and if you look at the historical record, neither Bill nor Hillary went after the women the way that Trump has been doing. He can't talk about what he wants to talk about because he has to respond to every single thing, where he yells about how the woman on the plane wouldn't have been his first choice, how they're disgusting and liars, and saying how convenient this all is that it's coming out now. Rather than talking about his immigration policy, such as it is, or his or whatever it happens to be, he can't seem to help himself at these rallies, and so he's moved from that. So that hasn't been great for him. He's moved from that to now complaining for the past solid week that the election is going to be rigged.
That's not a new thing. It's not like he came out of the blue and said it. He's been fairly consistent.
What I'm saying is that he hasn't been yelling about it as much as he's been doing this past week.
Yeah.
About how it's going to be, how it's rigged, and at one level it's like, well, maybe that's your get out the vote tactic, except why
get out the vote if it's going to be
rigged anyway, then why bother? That seems kind of counterintuitive. But I guess just broad strokes. He's talking about a rigged election for president, except that we don't have national elections for president. We have 51 individual state and District of Columbia elections to elect the president. That means that some portion of that 51 individual states in the District of Columbia would have to colluding between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, because remember, Paul Pate is the Secretary of State in Iowa. He's a Republican. Terry Branstad's a Republican. I believe that the governor in Pennsylvania right now is a Republican. I'm not sure about that. I didn't look it up before I said that. He might not be. But the key swing set, Scott Walker. Do you think that Scott Walker is going to rig the election in favor of Hillary in Wisconsin? It beggars belief.
It's only in California and Florida where they seem to have problems not being able to vote correctly.
Yeah, California is not going to go for Trump.
Well, that's because of all the dead Democrats there.
And Hillary doesn't need Florida. So I mean, so this idea that the election is going to be rigged, aside from the fact that it's laughable given the polling data that's out there, aside from the Rasmussen poll that has them tied, and if Rasmussen has a Republican tied to the Democrat, you better start looking at your race if you're a Republican.
Yeah, well,
and
you're trying to tell me Rasmussen's right leaning?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna disagree with that. That's not a right leaning poll. It's just a poll.
Rasmussen is pretty right leaning. Rasmussen had Mitt Romney up 4 points right before the election. Rasmussen has been off on national presidential elections going back a long time.
Well, and I would agree, and so is Quinnipiac, and so is a bunch of others.
Quinnipiac is more left leaning. But the USC Dorn's Life LA Times poll is the only other national poll. Now, national polls, we know we don't put a lot of stock in them, but that's the only other national poll that has Trump, that's had Trump ahead consistently by 4 points this entire time, and even that was down to about +1 for Trump tie in that. So Trump's got some problems on the national stage.
He sure does.
But aside from all that,
we got about 30 seconds.
The rigging of a national election, the rigging of a presidential election in this country, wholesale, is functionally impossible because of how I just described it. You would have to get systematic collusion between both parties all the way in every single state, in 13 states.
I don't think he's saying that the Republicans are doing it. I think it's a shot across the Democratic bow, because that's a fairly common refrain. Now, we're going to be back right back with, it's not a lie, because shit, darn it, sorry. Because, we all talk about Tammany Hall and Mayor Daley and the rest of that stuff. So we're going to get back to this
Republicans
polling issue. We're going to get back to the voter registration issues and all those other things. We want to thank you for tuning in. Without you, we couldn't do what we do. We'd be back